Good afternoon, friends. It's Bob. I want to bring you another reflection, actually two more here on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And both of them kind of look back at the Advent Christmas season, and in particular at these three guys. At least that's what we think because of the three gifts that they bring. We call them the Magi. And interestingly enough, the Magi are from the East, and they are not Christians. They are pagans. They are astrologers. They are people that don't worship the God that the Hebrew people do. And yet, God actually had a way of getting to them that was powerful. And it was all God's initiative. Nobody told them about this. No one, obviously, there was something written in their books. They knew that they were looking for something. They knew that when the stars do a particular thing, that means something. But even within their kind of their belief system of the day that we would probably say is really messed up, that God was drawing them to himself. And he had a way of doing it that computed to them in a way that they could actually get started in the direction of this one that we know as the Messiah. Now, they just knew that this was a king that was going to be born, but God knew that it was something bigger than that. Now, this brings us, I think, to a bigger issue, and that is that God is the one who drew them to himself. God drew the Magi to the Christ child to himself. God did. Now, Jesus talks about this in John's gospel frequently, in that Jesus says these kind of things like, no one can come to the Father unless the Father, nobody can come to me unless the Father draws them. And there's this impetus that's going on in the creation that is meaningful, it's powerful, it's incessant. That is that Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all people to myself. All people, not just some. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone wants to come to him, but that there are a ton of people that God has already been working years and years and years and years, fertilizing and tilling and planting seeds and all kinds of things like that in their lives, that they are in the place where they are being drawn to God. In fact, if we take Jesus's words seriously, it means that every person in your world is being drawn and they're at some point in that journey of being drawn toward God. Now, they may be just headed in the opposite direction, but what we do know is that God is drawing them in Christ. We know that. And so what I want to challenge us to do is to think about this next year, 2021, and ask the Lord, who are those people in my world that you want me to pray for first, and that you want me to seek out perhaps during this year sometime to befriend or to have some meaningful conversations or to care for or to meet a need? Lord, I pray for these people that you would draw them to yourself and that they would find you. I pray that you would draw me into their lives in a way that I can meaningfully communicate you and your love to them. Those two things, very, very simple, but that God is drawing these people to himself, your family members in particular. I read a study years ago by a guy, an expert that does a bunch of these studies named Tom Rainer, who works for Wheaton College. And basically, he came to grips with the fact that people are coming to Christ right and left in our world, but one of the primary vehicles that they are doing so is by family members actually bridging that gap, reaching out to them, praying for them, and sharing Jesus with them and sharing Jesus's love with them. Family members. So that doesn't mean that it's exclusively family members, but God has already put people in my life and put me into the lives of those people and you into the lives of those people for whom he is drawing to himself, and he wants you and I to be part of it. And I want to tell you, it's one of the most wonderful things ever to be a part of God working to birth a new baby into his kingdom, a new person into his family, a new person being born again, having a new heart, getting a fresh start, getting a new start in life because of what Jesus has done for them. So I want to ask you to do those two things. That's where we're starting here today, New Year's Eve 2020, is that we're asking God, Who is it that you have put in my life that I can pray for, and I can pray for every day? And then I'm going to pray for, asking God to provide opportunities for me to love them, for me to serve them, for me to meet needs for them, and for me to eventually be able to share meaningfully and have meaningful spiritual conversations with them. It doesn't mean that you go in great guns right off the bat, but that you basically tend the garden, that you basically go in and give them what each one of them needs as best as you can discern it at the time. That's what I believe. And I've just been stewing on this for quite a while, all throughout December, and felt like, you know what, I've passed Christmas, but I still need to be able to say this to you because God is doing this and he's inviting us into it. That's our word for today. As we go into this new year, I want to ask you to think about these people, and to perhaps that makes us actually have to think outside of ourselves, which is pretty much always a helpful thing. I love you. I'm so grateful that you tuned in today. Happy New Year. God bless you.